Hey, Frank, the last scintillating, exceptional, engaging real talk of the year. What a fantastic 9 months we've had recording these sessions, right?
Yes, man, that's absolutely true. I have to say, I was reflecting on it a little bit earlier because we both know it's the last one we're going to record this year. And I checked the YouTube channel where, we actually built quite a library there. I think it was, maybe I miscounted, but like 34 or so, something like that, conversations that we had on, I think, really great subjects, that we had started with anxiety and went over to how do you say, leading yourself. We had inclusive leadership. I got the portfolio was so big, and I have enjoyed every minute of that, I have to say.
So we'll be moving into series 3 next year. We don't want to give anything away because we don't know yet what it will be.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
we were just chatting, weren't we, and talking about our own experiences this year and maybe the perfect way to end the year, and what a strange year it's been for all of us, is to talk a little bit about endurance. We've talked before, and I know I've shared also with clients that, at the beginning of lockdown, everybody in the pandemic, I should say more, everyone was talking about resilience. You couldn't go on LinkedIn, could you, without seeing at least 30 posts on resilience?
Absolutely, and righteously so.
Right, people needed to see it, hear it, feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you ask people to be resilient every day, every week, every month, every quarter, and then suddenly you're 9, 10, 11 months, if you're living in Asia right now, you're 11 months in to this pandemic and you're still needing to be resilient, it stops being resilience and it starts becoming endurance.
Yes, it starts to become, once you realize this is a marathon you're on, and not just the pandemic. Think about somebody, and there may be millions, who actually not only have to battle with the fact that the pandemic changed their day-to-day life in the sense of that now they're working from home and these kind of things, but also maybe they lost their job and they need to take the next step. So because they have to secure some income, they need to live from something. So they try to find a new job, so they're applying, or they maybe to start their own business and start to make that grow. But none of that necessarily happens the next day. So you're in the pandemic, plus your life circumstances have changed greatly, and then it truly becomes a matter of endurance, I would say.
And I think we need to just distinguish, right? Because I don't know your definition, but mine, when I look at resilience, is how do I bounce back when something goes wrong in adversity? That idea of it's not how hard you get hit, it's how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. One of my favorite quotes from Rocky. Endurance isn't about bouncing back. It's about consistently moving forward where things don't change for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say marathon, I almost want to say it's ultra marathon. It's not even 40K. It's 150K. You've just got to keep going. And those people that you describe, those scenarios that you describe, I think they're even as many people who might even be okay in their jobs, but they're still at home and they're living in an apartment, and there's 3 of them in the apartment. And actually every day they get up and their bedroom is their office.
Yeah.
And there's no new scenery. There's no new engagement. It's, you get up, you open the laptop, you click into Zoom or Teams or WebEx, whichever platform you're on, and you're off. You don't even really connect with the team anymore. It's like straight down to business because you've got 8 calls today and they're all video conference calls. So I've got to be sat in my chair. I suppose that the question is, how do you, or for me to you is how do you define endurance when you look at the landscape today? And then maybe we could unpack some ideas of how to tap in to your endurance reserves, which I believe you'll have, but we need to find them. So can you help me to understand your definition first?
Yeah, without having really thought about the definition, but one thing, comes to mind with regards to endurance, and that is the realization that you have to go through, that you're maybe on a path that you have deliberately chosen to maybe change the situation that you're on. And although you need and want things to happen fast, you're not seeing any of it happening, or not enough.
Right.
So this is really continuing to believe and finding the strength to move towards where you want to be or need to be. Although everything seems as if that's an illusion, Frank or Brad, this is not happening. This is where actually you need to have this endurance. And I think it's very hard, because every single day the outer circumstances will seem to tell you that you're wrong. Your plan's wrong, your idea's wrong, the steps you're taking are wrong, because they're not leading to the result. And so that's if you hear that, even if it's your own voice, if you hear that over and over again, then your faith in what you want to do and what you want to achieve gets seriously minimized. And I think if you then still have that endurance, I mean, it's not a good practice to explain a word with using the word, but if you then still hold on despite that, then you're showing the endurance, I believe. But I want to say one last thing. I believe that endurance will actually eventually, although it may not seem in the moment, will give you the reward you were looking for, or some other reward. But without endurance means, doesn't it, that you keep doing things.
To endure, yes.
Yes, so you keep doing things that eventually will give you some sort of result, some sort of outcome. Versus if you don't have the endurance, which means you stop doing things.
And it suggests actually hardship.
Yes.
Implicit within the word to endure. If you and I are going on a holiday to the Bahamas, we don't have to endure it. I mean, it's just a wonderful thing. But if we have to stay home for 9 months, we have to endure it. We need endurance. So implicit in the word is the need to go through something that is tough. And whether, you mentioned, life circumstances changing, someone trying to maybe, set up a business, for example, because they lost their job, they need to earn money. It doesn't happen overnight. And there's so many things. And we've talked before, when you set up a business, you can be very, very busy doing nothing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you had a really good day. You've been really busy, but it didn't pay the mortgage or the rent and the car monthly payment, and the fuel's gone up and the food's gone up, and you may have family to support as well. There's so many different areas. So I've always been fascinated with endurance, and we've talked before, I do long distance running. And what are the kind of the mental states I get into when I need to endure? Because, I've also known people who wanted to be, say, rock musicians, studio artists.
Right.
And they were quite good, but they weren't brilliant. And, they reached their 20s and they had all the dreams and all the hopes and all the aspirations, and nothing really happened. And then they reached their 30s and the dreams were a little bit less flamed with fire, but the passion was still there, but they didn't make it. And then they got into their 40s, Frank, and it's like, now we're running out of time a little bit. Like, keep dreaming, of course, but at some point, a lack of maybe skill will get in the way of a dream.
Yes, and but maybe it's not just the lack of the skill. It could also be that you do the same thing over and over again that isn't working, right? Don't we all somehow, over the course of the journey, whatever we're taking, also have to adapt? We're experimenting with things, and sometimes just also our environment changes, so we need to change with it. I'm imagining just, I don't know the rock musicians that you were talking about, but perhaps the way they were playing or the way they were composing was always the same, which also, it just always brought the same result.
Look, it's the Einstein quote: if you do the same thing over again and expect a different result, right? It's the definition of madness. And at the same time, Darwin teaches us that if you don't change, you become irrelevant.
Yes. So how can you tell apart if you're enduring for the right reasons, or you keep moving and keep moving through things that are hard, and realizing that actually you're being stupid because you're repeating steps that are shown not to work?
And I think there's a couple of things that have always helped me. One is self-auditing, a regular check-in with what I'm doing and balancing that against the results, but keeping a record. So like an audit. So not just, going for a nice walk and thinking, oh, what did I do this week? What worked, what didn't work? But actually writing down. So I can, over a period of a month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, look back and go, okay, I've been doing this now for 8 months and it's getting no results. I need to change that. So the self-audit has been very helpful to me when looking at endurance and that tipping point in order to change.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll tell you the second thing. The second thing has been to not have too stringent a plan. And when I have really tight, stringent plans, I then become restricted to conform to the plan.
Sure.
And it makes me less agile, I think is the word we all use today. And so having a plan that has more flex in it, where I'm more able to access the opportunities that might be out there and I'll miss if I'm just like this, sticking to my plan. So opening up my scope of impact and my scope of vision, along with a regular self-audit, are the ways I've balanced this need for checking. Am I just enduring, or am I enduring with purpose?
Yes.
I don't know if that resonates when you hear it.
Yes, I know what you mean. And actually, I like that we talked about these two things, because this enduring something in the sense of I'm going through a hard time, but I do have a plan, and this is where if I just am persistent enough, if I'm enduring enough, will eventually end up where I want to be. And this other stream of being smart and agile and flexible about it, they are both are needed.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases, I would believe, so I think maybe as something to think about for people who kind of resonate with what we're talking about right now for themselves personally is, are you doing both things? Are you persistent? Are you focused? Do you know where you want to go? And then also at the same time, are you agile about it? Do you explore? Do you, is your mind open to even see the different possibilities and opportunities that are on the path that you're choosing?
So you've triggered instantly there for me. We talk about growth mindset, don't we, a lot these days?
Yes.
What does it mean to you when you hear that? Because I feel when I hear it somehow fits in with what we're talking about in being able to endure, but to endure with purpose to drive our own feeling of what makes us feel successful.
Yeah, I think for me, the aspect of growth mindset that always resonated with me the most is that you are really open. Your mind is open to, not just that, so your mind is open and you have the curiosity to explore the opportunities that are on your way. And then also take action on it. We also talked about earlier in one of the earliest sessions, I believe, that there are billions of motivational quote posters on social media, and people consume it like crazy.
Right.
Yet most people you speak with still tell you, I wish and I hope and I would have liked that in my life, and all these kind of things, but then there is no action.
Right.
So you need to have a growth mindset, but then you need to also have the courage to allow to follow that curiosity of yours in some way. That's what resonated with me the most always. That's actually how I would interpret it for myself when we're talking about growth mindset.
And again, what I think you've done there is you tapped into, for me, the difference between having motivation, which needs to constantly be self-sustained and revisited and replenished, and inspiration. Because there are times when I have no motivation to do anything, but I'm so inspired to do stuff, I don't actually need motivation to do it. Because when I'm inspired to do stuff, I do it. The motivation is intrinsic. It's within me. I don't need to find it. If you say to me, hey, Brad, were you motivated to go for a run yesterday? I'll be honest, Frank, it was cold here, it was wet, and I was not motivated to go for a run. I did. I dragged myself out, but I wore tracksuit trousers and a hoodie, and took the dog with me to keep me company in the dark because it's winter here. I wasn't motivated. But if you said to me, hey, Brad, you've been in business 28 years, what keeps you motivated? I'll say to you, actually, it's not motivation that's kept me here. It's being totally inspired by what I do. That means I get up every day at 5 a.m. and I'm so happy to go to work.
And I think that's incredible, to be honest, that you have this clarity of that, you're running because you know what it gives you.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you might not feel like that in a moment, you have a conversation with your future self that probably says next week that you regret not having done it.
Tonight, I regret it, actually.
Yeah, or even tonight, you're fast thinker, so that's why.
I'll already be grumpy.
Yeah, that's really good. So that's why you push yourself forward with this. There's some other thing came to my mind, Brad. A friend of mine recently wrote something about it also matters a lot. What is the language that you're using with the voice in your own head? So, and he was arguing, and I tend to believe that, but although I don't have an explanation for it, that that if in your own voice you're telling yourself, or even when you're speaking with friends and when you're saying, I wish I would reach that point, I hope that this is going to happen, versus saying, I'm going to make this happen, or I decide to, I will.
Mm-hmm.
This makes a whole lot of a difference whether the things that you set out to do are actually going to happen.
I absolutely agree with that, and could not give you any evidence that could quantify or qualify why that sounds so true.
Yeah, me neither, to be honest.
Right? Because if you unpick it, it sounds, I could really wish to get into winning a training contract with Apple, and saying it out loud every day won't make it happen. What it will do, I think, is it will drive me to keep pushing, to call Apple, to reach out to them, to send them stuff, to make connections, to collaborate, to start small, to build big. And I think it's the focus, the nuance of our internal dialogue. I was chatting with someone the other day on a lockdown session, right? And we were talking about the inner critic versus the inner mentor. And I think you touched on it here.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us believe our inner critic.
And I'll tell you something to round this up maybe a little bit. I believe that if you start using this language with yourself, but also in conversations with others, when you express your desires, that you begin to really literally use those words like I will, I decide. Because what that does, I think this gives you the North Star that you need in order to have endurance.
Yeah.
And but not just that, it also, because you say I will, or I decide to that this is going to happen for me, versus I hope or I wish. I think it also gives you the leeway to, while you're enduring, to also be agile about it.
Right. Yeah, because apart from anything, you're more competent and confident because the language you're using is saying, I am going to do it. You know,
Yeah.
with hope comes disappointment. I hope to get this, but maybe I won't.
Yes.
But I will is already that definitive drive. It's a more
Yeah.
motivational speak. This is a lovely topic. Maybe if we're still in kind of pandemic lockdown in 6 months' time, we should revisit this topic.
Yeah, I think we should. I'm really curious. Maybe we get some feedback on this, what people think about, how they are enduring, what worked for them, or maybe what doesn't also. I think it will be super interesting.
Yeah, let's find out what others think. Frank,
Yeah.
listen, let's play Real Talk season 3, I guess, next year. What a joy these conversations have been. I've absolutely loved them.
Me too. So wishing everybody who's listening to this now a wonderful break at the end of the year. I hope a lot of you can have a break. I know that not everybody will. In any case, some nice time with family and friends.
Yeah.
Whether you're religiously engaged in the year end and Christmas time, or just maybe take a couple of days downtime. I wish everybody a wonderful end of the year. And you too, Brad.
Yes, Frank, always a pleasure. Can't wait to see you in the new year.
That's our goodbye for 2020.
Thanks, Frank.